I want everyone to know who's listening that I'm using because I'm away right now making a record, I'm using a different microphone. I'm not using my standard setup, but luckily, even with this microphone, which is probably not even as good as John Lennon's one on Now and Then, I'm happy to say, been given the green light to use Peter Jackson's technology to turn this into essentially like a U67, just using his restoration technology.
Well, it's interesting that you're doing this. I assume the reason you're doing it is just to show how easy it is to do something like this nowadays. Because, me, I'm a bit of a Luddite. I'm an all analog kind of guy. And I know that you understand things like this, like Fab Filter and a lot of these kinds of things,
Actually, interesting how heavily Fab Filter featured in the new Now and Then kind of mini doc. I thought whenever they talked about, because this is an emergency episode, we're going to get into this.
Yeah.
Whenever they talked about the technology, the kind of proprietary technology that Peter Jackson was using, they just showed photos of Fab Filter.
Yeah. Well,
on a Christopher Nolan style, like massive screen, like the biggest screen you could ever see.
Well, you know that they're getting paid to show that and everything.
It's interesting because if you were, I know there's a lot to say here. If you were in the Beatles, like if you had the only reason any of us use Fab Filter, great product, or any of these kind of like digital simulations of analog equipment is because we're not in the Beatles and we can't afford the real ones.
Well, I mean, there's almost too much to say. So I think as I have thoughts, I should just say them because I don't know if I'm going to be able to condense it all and make it like a cohesive like rant or something. But
before you say anything, I want to say one thing.
Okay.
This is an emergency Beatles episode of the podcast Impossible Way of Life. You can find us at Patreon /An Impossible Way of Life, where we're currently mostly invested and involved in our world guitarist ranking competition. Yeah. But we had to come on and do this episode for several reasons that will become clear if you haven't listened to the podcast over the next hour. But if you have listened to it, it's going to be kind of a joy of your life because we've been talking about the potential of an artificial intelligence Beatles for about 4 years. And the video just dropped this morning. So there's a lot to say. We're going to talk about the song. We're going to talk about what the hell is going on. And we'll probably get some ranking done. But yeah, Impossible Way of Life, Patreon /An Impossible Way of Life, Instagram /Impossible Way of Life. Don't ask me why. We're just jazzy like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, please.
No.
Condense your rant.
No, it's not a rant yet. I'll get to that.
Don't condense it.
Because I honestly I don't know if it will be the joy of the life of the listeners where I'm at with this thing. But what I was gonna say is. Actually, I kind of forgot. What were we talking about? Oh, so what kind of blows my mind, just a quick thought, is that, here's the thing. They have all the technology I was talking to Stranglehold about this.
Nice.
They have all the technology to isolate John Lennon's vocal, clean it up, tune it up. Yet they still can't make it sound Beatlesy, the song. Yeah. Like somehow, all of these people in the studio with all the stuff and everything, they can't make it sound Beatlesy.
Or, as we now know for a fact, as Paul prefers, Beatley.
Yeah.
Beatley. It sounds a bit Beatley.
Yeah, maybe.
Strings, they're kind of Beatley. Well, no, he says Capitol Records is Beatley.
Oh, right. Well, kind of. Yeah, it is a bit.
EMI used to be the EMI, so it's kind of Beatley. It is sort of Beatley.
I can't say Beatley. I can only say
We've been saying Beatlesy for too long. Right.
But yeah, I just think it's so funny when I listen to it that I'm like you say, that's interesting. People who have those plugins, like they buy them because they don't sound like the Beatles and they want to try. The whole world, all these plugins, everybody who has Logic, Pro Tools, everything, it's all to try to sound like Beatles.
It is just to sound like the Beatles.
And then the Beatles go in these Beatlesy studios with a Beatles song and the Beatle guy recording a Beatle demo.
They've got the Beatles guy doing the Beatles demo. They've got the Beatles in it. Any Beatle that's alive, they've got you can't get the real thing. Get his son in. They've got everyone in there.
The son of the Beatles guy. They got the string section, the London,
they're in the
whatever.
Beatlesy studios.
They're doing it, and still, you know what? To me, that's the most indicative thing of why this kind of stuff just doesn't really work or misses the mark. Is that was a moment in time and space, and it was a bunch of people who were doing a certain thing.
Just four guys
it was magic, and it was like there was a cohesive commitment to it, and that's it. That's what it was. It was then. It was not now.
Nice.
It was then.
Nice one.
And it's just funny to me that like they just couldn't like really do it.
I went in. We're at times, it might sound like I'm being saccharine. I can't be quite sharp or terse with this kind of stuff. But, I watched the mini doc. We haven't spoken really much this week.
Yeah, I watched it this morning.
I watched it a couple of days ago. I've kind of watched everything in sequence, in timeline, much like those kind of YouTube reaction videos. And, maybe it was because I'd had a few beers. I was willing to let it make me emotional. Mm-hmm. Like I was willing to do it, to be like, I want, and if I've had a few beers, I'll like cry my eyes out at like a cat food commercial. I'm really open.
Sure.
And I felt it a little bit for a second, but it just feels not real. Like it feels so saccharine, the whole endeavor. And obviously, like it is big money. It's it's legacy project stuff, and presumably it's really just functioning on a similar level to like the Stones being able to release new bad music, which allows them to sell out a world tour, or in the Beatles' case, maybe up the price of what their publishing is worth and sell a Paul McCartney world tour out, where he'll do the song on a ukulele and John will show up on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
And this isn't going to be the last Beatles song because Paul's probably got loads in his arsenal. And eventually it will turn into John singing harmonies with Paul on Paul Beatles songs that we've never heard, because we'll slowly get used to the concept of like regenerative AI being used, which I think has been used on this song. There's some John stuff on there that he definitely didn't sing in the demo.
Yeah, I mean, even in the documentary, when they show his isolated voice, I mean, whatever it is, it sounds computery as fuck.
It does.
I mean, yeah, like, look, the thing is with this is I came on here this morning, I woke up, I did the thing that they wanted me to do, that the Beatles camp asked me to do. I watched the documentary, I listened to the song, I watched the video, and I was so excited. I was like, I've had this podcast for 4-6 years, however long it's been, and I'm going to go on with my friend, and I'm going to joke around about this, and I'm going to rip it to shreds, and it's going to be fucking hilarious. Yeah. And then you know what happened? Something happened. I just got sad.
It broke you.
It made me sad. Yeah. Like, it wasn't funny. It was like the Graham Nash thing. I was laughing. Then it was a bit scary. Yeah. And then I was just like, you know what I'm watching here? A bunch of old men just who are kind of out of touch, like doing this thing, making a music video. And it just made me kind of sad a bit. Like,
it's astonishing.
And they got John Lennon dancing around like an idiot. Like... Yeah. And I don't know.
I don't mind the idea of John being portrayed as something other than like an angry fucker.
But why is he only doing the your mother should know like silly dancing like the whole time?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean,
the video's too much. I get
the video. I mean, listen, this just came out. We just woke up to the video. I mean, I don't think of myself with these like delusions of grandeur or like, but if someone listening, presumably there's an AI, program that can do that, can just run AI over the last 4 years of our podcast and find times, actually just in the first year, where we suggested the likelihood is that there'll be a Peter Jackson directed video that has AI Beatles in it to an AI Beatles song. Like, it's stranger than fiction. Like, fiction is stranger than real life. Like, that this has happened.
Well,
or the other way around. It's too early. I've only had one coffee.
The writing was on the wall.
Real life is stranger than fiction?
I think so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, it's amazing that he's managed to make it look like a Facebook Memories video.
Yeah, like a Google Photos.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, 1966. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all just sort of spliced together.
You know what would have been really sick?
What?
I'm just spitballing
for them not
here.
To release it?
No, if they'd used AI or whatever technology to make John 85 years old,
that would have been bad.
Had him
like the Irishman,
jamming,
like a backwards Irishman.
Yeah, had Ann George and had them all jamming now. That would have been
in like dad vibes, like a kind of like the Wilburys kind of energy.
That would have been sick.
All making a pizza together.
Yeah, John's got like a big white beard or something. You know,
Gandalf.
Like, yeah.
Do you think do you think he would have gone that route?
What do you mean?
Style wise?
I think he probably would have had it. I'm not so sure actually if he would have done the big beard.
Strange the
probably
video
because
we just watched it. There's a lot to digest there. I mean, first of all, just reinforcing the megalomania of Paul. Like, he's singing the lead. I mean, I know that they don't have the technology. They do have the technology, but we're not ready for it.
Maybe maybe he's just doing a bit of an old double track, like in the early days, you know, when me and John sort of sang together, you know. Yeah. Okay, let's start, before we get to the video, though, let's just start on the song. Okay? Because the song itself...
Can you do a little bit just for the listeners and, you know, just set the scene of the Charlie Rose kind of... Okay.
Yeah.
This is a song that the history of this song is, you know, well documented and well known. But, you know, what is the history of this song, Johnny?
Well, I guess that during the period where John was a bit quiet in the
raising
mid to late
kids and
70s, Sean, I mean, solely. I don't think Julian was around much. And he was living in the Dakota in New York and just kind of writing songs. And he didn't make a record for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And everyone thought he wasn't doing anything. But I guess he was in there stockpiling a lot of songs that would end up coming out on Double Fantasy, which is a wonderful album. And I guess he made a tape of some demos and wrote for Paul on it. So the story goes, and then I guess at some point, Yoko told George that she had this tape
in the 90s.
Yeah, I guess
it wasn't it didn't seem that important for a decade to her.
I guess so. Well, maybe
if it ever existed. In the first
his
place.
death was quite fresh, and who knows? Maybe they weren't really like thinking about that stuff. But and then I guess on the tape were "Free as a Bird," "Real Love," and "Now and Then." I don't know if there were multiple tapes. I don't know about that stuff. It started to sound like Watergate or something.
It is Watergate, basically. And I don't know who was in the DNC that day.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there was a copy made. It was, we have double confirmation on our sources. We cannot name them, but there's two separate sources. The original copy's still out there. Yeah. Anyway, I guess Anthology started, you know, they were going to do that. And I guess...
that was their first attempt at kind of at domination post-John.
A reunion kind of thing. Which, to be fair, I drank the Kool-Aid, but seemed a little bit more heartfelt. Legit. And like, okay, we haven't all been together at all. Let's kind of tell the story for like a DVD box set, which is the Beatles anthology movies are awesome. I
wonder in retrospect if you watched them whether they would be or whether it was just a more wholesome time.
No, it's really good. The interviews it's very 90s. Like it's cool. It's like Paul like out on his like boat on like a canal, like a little fishing boat, like telling story. I mean, it's really in depth, right? Like it's good. It's good. And then I guess that they had the tapes and they were like, okay, like we'll make these songs into, you know, Beatles songs and we'll get Jeff Lynne to produce it.
Who is kind of like post-Beatle, really.
A bit, yeah.
He kind of took it a bit too far, maybe, but he's pretty Beatlesy.
Well, yeah. Well, John famously was a huge fan.
Yeah.
He was very vocal about that, and then of course George worked with him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they did "Free as a Bird" and "Real Love," which clearly they put a lot of work and effort into because the records sound pretty good, and George is dialed in with his guitar playing and all that kind of stuff. And then I guess they started work on Now and Then. I mean, people watch the documentary, they see this. And then they abandoned it because, for one reason, I guess they couldn't separate the piano enough from the vocals, so the demo wasn't strong enough. But this is the part that no one's talking about. George famously, there's a quote, said that he thought the song was fucking rubbish.
Yeah, in his kind of acid tongue way.
Yeah, he's a bit of a bitter man, to be fair. But
there's a paradox in him.
Yeah, so he said that, and basically they ran out of time, whatever, abandoned it. George dies in 2001. Lord of the Rings trilogy comes out. This is next in the timeline. Fellowship
absolutely.
of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. Yeah. Return of the King wins Best Picture. Yeah. Peter Jackson, Best Director.
Andy Serkis starts kind of working into the story here as well.
Exactly. Andy Serkis as Gollum comes into the picture.
Which is also the birth of AI technology in terms of green screen stuff.
Physical AI starts,
Giles now at this point is starting to hang out with Joaquin Phoenix at that fruit stand in LA near the Lassens.
Echo Park,
Yeah, he's starting to kind of come up in this world. He's eating a lot of fruit with some salt on it, that kind of Mexican salt and stuff like that. They
presumably doing quite a bit of nose candy and
heavily into it.
And when you do a lot of drugs like that, you sometimes you have conversations that inevitably turn to the Beatles.
Yeah, and he's
because you start thinking it's probably 4 a.m. and they're throwing on Abbey Road and they're like, you know what, dude, you should just do some Beatles stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your dad did Beatles stuff.
I always thought there should be more of a they're probably at some kind of club, so you're getting that pulsy EDM kick, which is one of Giles' signature kind of, when he's remixing, he likes to put in kind of some kind of Skrillex style kicks and sub drops.
Update it for the younger audience, for sure.
No one young's listening to it. Update it for the older folks.
Yeah, well, they like that. Skrillex they probably like that now.
He's kind of it. So we got Giles. This is kind of 2002. So just George is gone. We're looking at Lord of the Rings trilogy has come out. So we're probably in about 2005
No, this is like 2012.
Oh, we're really up there.
Yeah, this is like Lord of the Rings has come out. Huge success.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson's kicking it in New Zealand.
Giles is so high, he's heard the Fourth Harmony in Helplessly Hoping.
Yeah.
So he's ready.
Peter Jackson's just kicking back, listening to Rubber Soul, thinking, what's next?
Well, he's only into two things, Peter Jackson. Lord of the Rings and the Beatles.
He keeps thinking, how do I connect these two? How do I connect these two things? Anyway, then they make Get Back. Whatever. They figure out that there's all this video footage that they can unearth.
Well, yeah, they just find it out of nowhere. They find it. Swath of videos that no one's ever seen before. A gold mine that somehow Peter Jackson and his network uncovers. Yeah. It's a bit kind of demonic, really.
He's the guy, apparently, according to...
He sent his sources out to find this stuff, and he found it in, Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
In, a bunker.
That. Yeah. It's
got it from Trevelyan. He managed to,
Yeah. It's a bit like the Indiana Jones kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's the Lord of the Rings feel, really.
I guess, pilgrimage to...
Finding the Get Back tapes.
Problem is, maybe they should have cast it into the fire.
Well, that's what we've said, and that's the whole Beatles issue, is that Paul should have cast this all into the fire.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so they made that. We all loved it. For those of you who don't know our show, we did about 50 podcasts about the Get Back documentary. Kind of put us on the map as the Beatles future podcast.
Yeah, B2.
I'm not saying that we are a Beatles history podcast, although we do touch on that. We're more of a Beatles future podcast.
I think we're the only people who are talking about the future of the Beatles and quote
music.
Unquote rock and roll 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody who listens to our show, I believe the patron name is Big Macca.
Yeah,
he reached out and said that which I thought was cool. I never thought about that. There's a lot of classic rock history podcasts out there, but we're the only classic rock future.
I like that
podcast. Yeah, which was kind of interesting. So we started talking about where this was all headed.
Well, we know as well that we know we don't need sources to know that there's a whole White Album documentary that's going to be made at some point.
I've seen the footage. I've seen it. I know. I mean, I'm telling you, and I'm honestly I'm very excited.
I know that'll be good. Yeah,
I hope they have it because I've seen there's footage of him recording Blackbird, doing all the shit. Like I'm like, they gotta have. Okay, look, if there's clips of all those different days, they're in different clothes.
Yeah,
in different days. They didn't just film 5 minutes of fucking footage. They filmed those whole days of recording, and we want the tapes.
Release the tapes.
Release the tapes. Let's see it. Peter Jackson, there's more to do, buddy. There was something after Lord of the Rings, right? The Silmarillion or whatever?
The Silmarillion, yeah. But no one even cared about the book of that.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If there's more Tolkien material,
I see. You've got to complete the universe.
Beatles. There's more Beatles, too.
Yeah, not only that, why? Like one of the scandals. This is kind of almost like we're setting the scene Charlie Rose style here. Yeah, but also this is kind of a little bit of a history of our relationship with the Beatles on this podcast. There's
our relationship
also the fact
in general
that we had a very successful Beatles Peter Jackson GoFundMe to release the tapes or like a petition because he has all the tapes of them on the roof.
Yeah,
and we didn't get to see it in the documentary.
We don't want cutaways. We don't want cutaways.
We just want the concert.
To the street. I'll take camera one.
Yeah,
on the whole band.
That's
it. Just I don't even need other angles.
Like Muddy Waters in Last Waltz. If you've only got one camera, it's a great shot.
Yeah, it's fine.
We're fine with
it. Yeah, I'll take that.
Don't even restore the audio. Actually, leave the audio alone.
Yeah,
don't touch it. Don't.
I'll sync it up to my Let It Be LP myself. It's fine. Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz style.
I'll listen to the Dark Side of the Moon whilst watching the Beatles on the roof, and reading Wizard of Oz.
Yep. So
then we kind of get more into the present day when we start seeing Giles's EDM remixes of the Beatles.
Yeah.
He's out there with Trevor from Space Hog, and I believe Giles is with Joaquin too. They're kind of in their kind of coke shack in the Catskills at this point.
Well, there's that other guy too.
Who did the app?
Sam O'Kell. Who he's only had 2 jobs in his life too. One was something to do with music from Lord of the Rings or sound, and the other one is mixing the Beatles music.
Well, he did the Atmos remix of Now and Then. You'll be glad to hear.
Oh, he's the Atmos guy.
Yeah, he's the guy they got in to use that proprietary technology that no one's ever heard.
That's great that they did an Atmos mix of that because I really want to hear Ringo's like kind of Pearl Jam snare drum sound.
It's an
isolated in the
interesting time
12th
for Ringo,
speaker.
Interesting time for Ringo to decide to use a kind of like Pearl Jam rim shot for the first time in his career.
Well, here's the problem with that. So now we're getting into the song itself, which I really have a lot to say about. So they did this song Now and Then, blah, blah, blah. They took away John's piano and isolated his voice and re-recorded everything else. The problem with the drums for me was that in the documentary, they say that Ringo's like, Paul laid down the bass and then he sent me the tracks and I did the drum. And I'm like, you guys can't get together?
It's so sad.
Yeah, I'm like...
Go Abbey Road.
Go and do it. And also,
Make it Beatlesy.
I'm assuming, James, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming, and you probably would agree with this, that Ringo's in his house
with his little demo
miking
kit.
up the drums himself
with his little demo
I assume
kit.
This like an Apogee Quartet
I think so.
interface using those preamps and like a couple of mics, and he doesn't have a drum tech, and he's like, "Oh, these sound good."
Well, we've seen the tour.
Yeah.
When he's on tour, he's cancelling his tour because not enough people are coming. He's running his own Instagram.
Yeah.
You know,
he's like, I'm trying to save money. I'm not getting on a plane to London here from Malibu. You know what I mean?
Struggling.
He's like, I can do this. He's like, I got a couple 57s. I got my Quartet
I've got my Behringer overheads and and my Apogee.
And he's like, I don't even need to towel these off or anything. That's old news. These are really good drums. I tune them myself.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's how the drums got recorded.
Also, the same thing with that is like he probably said this, and Peter Jackson and Sam O'Kell and Giles were like, "Yeah, we've got the technology to fix that.
We'll fix it up. We'll dampen them.
We've got RX. We've got some transient designers. We'll take care of that on that massive screen that we work on. This oversized, demonic, scary screen that we work on for no reason. No human can even see that wide." Yeah. But that's no need. Why are they in some kind of weird, like, evil person in a movie room in that documentary?
Yeah, they're only like 5 feet away from the screen too, which is weird.
Do they have different eyes?
It's like when you go see Christopher Nolan movie and the only seats are left in the front row.
Just you end up traumatized.
Watching Dunkirk.
Why am I there?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Except it's Ringo playing the drums.
Yeah. On D-Day.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Dunkirk's the first one, isn't it? First World War. Attrition. More of an attrition approach.
Yeah.
You're just on that you're on that downed plane with Cillian Murphy.
It's World War II. Dunkirk. I don't think so.
First World War.
Really?
Is it the start of World War II?
I don't think so. It's World War II for sure.
The start of it.
No, it's what it's that they were. Anyway, we don't need to get into this. It's World War II though, and they sent all the fishermen and the people came from England. Yeah.
I've heard of that.
They had fighter jets and stuff. Tom Hardy's up there in the jet.
They didn't have fighter jets.
They didn't have those in World War I, like those guys. Anyway,
we're kind of at now and then. They've listened to the demo, which actually is really nice and sounds good.
Okay, demo's way better than this one they made. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, I really didn't want to come here and shit on these poor old guys.
Old guys.
Well, no, these rich old
guys. These guys.
But I was texting with Max from Cutworms about it. He's a really Beatlesy guy.
He's one of the most Beatlesy guys we know.
And he just said to me, he seemed quite sad too, and he just said, "Bless their Beatle hearts," because it just kind of has that sort of grandpa. You know what I mean? You're like, look at this, like Grandpa's come and made another song. It's kind of cute. It's sweet.
I mean, it's also just a bit depressing that the Beatles and the Stones are releasing music in 2000.
You know what's funny about that?
Who's playing the Super Bowl? That's what I want to know.
If you told me that in 2023 we'd still be like pitting these two bands against each other in terms of new releases, I would have been like,
that's my take. You know what? The Super Bowl is going to be both of them.
That'd be sick.
Beatles, Stones, Super Bowl.
We'd get like a year of podcasts out of that.
That's what it's going to be. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be the Stones, or it might be McCartney. He's not going to let them lead. That's the only thing that would stop that. Ringo and McCartney doing it with the Stones if it has to be billed as the Beatles or Paul McCartney. He won't let it be billed as the Stones.
You know what, man? I don't think that they're big enough to do the Super Bowl. Either band. This is the sad
That's
part.
A hot take. Taylor's not going to do it, though, so...
She's too big.
I know.
And the Beatles and Stones are not big enough. It's like, and you watch the video, and it's just kind of like, okay, like, I don't know. I think that...
did you notice in the video that they're doing, like, a kind of historical revisionism? So they're like, Paul... What happened, obviously, is, like, they were making this video... It feels a bit piecemeal considering Peter Jackson's got the tech. I mean, I've seen that the one where he colorized all of the World War One, maybe two. I don't know anymore. Like World War One. Veterans, and it's like a bit better. He spent a bit more time on this. Feels like he just kind of did it last minute. Like last night, they were like, "We need a video, Peter." But it's interesting in the video. First of all, a couple of things I noticed. They do the pointy thing that Mike Love has kind of co-opted. Like it's John Lennon pointing at Paul McCartney, like, "This is Paul McCartney. This is Paul."
I know.
Which is fucked. Is that like a move that all these old guys think is a move now?
I think it's a pointing thing is really a move that like they're like. I think that the guys like Mike Love and Paul McCartney, because they're like normally being pointed at,
so they like to point.
I think they like people pointing at them.
That's why we do it.
They like people pointing at them and being like, "This guy wrote Eleanor Rigby."
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then it's interesting because, like, obviously at some point, Paul and Ringo were like, "Yeah, this video is great," and then got a little bit jealous that there were all these like hot young versions of George and John in it, and we're like, "Well, we need, young versions of us." And it's like, "But you're alive, Paul." Like that's not the point. The point is that you're playing with those two fuckers and they're dead. And he's like, "Well, I want two of me then." And it's just, at one point, there's just like multiple Ringos and Pauls walking around. It's terrifying to me.
What I didn't understand is,
it's like Lemmings, the video game, but it's just Paul McCartney's everywhere.
Yeah, there's one part where he and Ringo are both singing the lead vocal.
Strange.
In front of a green screen that's just like a studio.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I guess Peter Jackson loves green screen stuff, but like, why? It doesn't even look like they're really in a room. Like,
I don't think Paul and Ringo have seen each other for since before COVID.
It must be that. It must be they filmed them separately and did like a split screen and then put them in a room together. It does look like that.
It does look like that.
And Ringo's mic is like a weird big.
It's cool,
black.
that mic though.
Yeah. What is it though? Like it does look like a sort of like a clone, like maybe one of the mics he used on the drums. It kind of looks
like a Korn, Jonathan Davies, like Geiger mic.
Yeah,
a bit.
Yeah, he's like, I've got this one. It's kind of.
It's not a microphone. It's on my mantelpiece. It's a bowl.
He's just in front of his.
It's a bowl
in his living room. I'll get my wife to get the phone out.
Yeah,
and film me.
It could be that,
dude. It is. And
can I shoot it on my iPhone?
Yeah. Send it. The technology thing is just so seducing these guys so much. They're like, we don't even need to leave the house.
No.
Peter and Giles, they'll fix it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll fix it all up.
I think it's a shame that they. I would have. It's a shame that they didn't use the nicest bit of the song in the demo.
Yeah, that's really, really sad. The "I Don't Want to Lose You" like bridge is to me. I just listened to the demo before we came on. And that is definitely my favorite part of the song.
Yeah.
And there's the cool falsetto-y stuff he gets into and some nice chords. And it gets really soul-like. And that would have been just like a cool part. And I bet you they abandoned it because they thought his singing wasn't strong enough or something.
Yeah.
Which is so lame. Like, I don't know why they would have done that, but...
well, yeah, because it was like too real. Too
I guess
human.
So. I guess
Jackson.
So. Yeah.
And Giles.
I mean,
the strings don't even sound Beatlesy.
I don't like the strings. I've been meaning to get to that.
And the solo isn't an homage to George.
I think he tried, but he can't do George's signature sound.
That's true, and that we'll get into that probably when we get to ranking George.
Yeah. Well, but I honestly. This is sort of what I mean about like it's almost okay. Here's what I want to say. It's almost like it's not worth it to like hyper criticize this as like a current recorded song because it's like just seems quite out of touch and like not very good. Like the song isn't very good. The recording
the song isn't a good song.
Not really. No, it's not. The demos has some charm to it. It's pretty. The song that they made is like not. It seems like a mishmash of a bunch of stuff, and instrumentation wise the arrangement is just too dense for me, and the strings really don't add much of anything. And you know, the singing, the backup vocals are kind of
lasers.
Yeah,
kind of a laser vibe to them.
Yeah,
not convinced anyone sung the oohs and ahs. It kind of sound, the oohs and ahs under the strings kind of sound like that AI Daddy's Car song.
It sounds like AI making a Beatles song.
I think there's an element of
the sweepy strings,
yes,
the like
I agree.
And like it, and even John, like the melody and like the song. It's just kind of like, okay, this is kind of what the Beatles would do, or something.
It's a sort of emulation. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they've used AI to recreate elements of John's voice.
Yeah, probably.
Like, because if we see the technology that on Instagram, on like the AI Beatles Instagram and stuff like that, like everyone, you can get John to sing like Smells Like Teen Spirit on your iPhone, and it doesn't sound like him, but it's like, you imagine what Peter Jackson has in his back pocket to use. I think it's more AI than we know.
Yeah, well, I listened to the demo, as I said, and definitely the vocals on this new one sound a lot slicker.
Yeah, they're tuned up.
They're definitely tuned up. Like some of the singing's a little bit rough on the demo in a nice way.
Yeah.
But it definitely, they've done work to it.
Here's what I'd like to say right now. Mm-hmm. I think it's important. I don't know when we'll get to do this, but it feels important. And maybe we could speak to Max, some of the other musician patrons who are listening, who have a love and a penchant for old, just real, I would say, although that's a hard word to use in conjunction with the Beatles now. Just Beatles fans and fans of Beatlesy Abbey Road EMI style recordings. I think we should, because it's probably going to be easy enough to find, get John's vocal, or even, honestly, just get the demo and we'll just do a version of it. We'll add drums, bass, strings and stuff and do our version of Now and Then and see if it can be more Beatlesy than the Beatles.
Well, you suggested this wonderful idea and I love it. And what I was thinking that, look, I'm really going out on a limb here. This might sound a little bit, like I'm feeling myself, but I think me harmonizing with John Lennon will sound more Beatlesy than 82-year-old Paul.
So you're saying that you think you have more of an OG Macca tone than Paul McCartney does,
or
82.
just an OG Lennon, or just kind of a hybrid Beatlesy tone,
just a Beatles tone
that I'll tap into for the harmony with John on this. And I think it might sound more Beatlesy.
I'll go even further than that.
Yeah.
I think that we know that any piano in the world you record and you put that Waves TG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the Beatles bright piano preset on will sound more Beatlesy than their piano.
Definitely. And we know we can beat the drum sound.
Oh my God.
That's no trouble there.
No. Just don't get Pearl Jam to record it.
And the strings, obviously, like that's a big time, pro string arrangement. Honestly, I don't even want strings on it. Nice. So we're good there.
Okay, good.
We don't need to recreate that.
Maybe just a bassoon or something to put it White Album-y? Or because you don't want it to be too John Lennon-y, right? It has to be Beatlesy.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more of even like some Mellotron kind of stuff.
Mellotron strings.
Yeah, or like some flutes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Almost a bit more of a strawberry.
Did you say flute or fruit? That's more of a Brian Wilson style. Putting fruits on a song.
That's your greatest joke ever on this podcast, the fruit solo, man. That was the most hardest I've ever laughed, I think. Wow, that was good. Anyway, let me finish one part of my rant, and then we can just freestyle it.
I want to talk about what you wanted, like production-wise. Afterwards, I want to talk about what you would do to the song if you were George Martin. But let's just rant away.
Okay, let's get back to that. I just want to finish one thought.
I want you to
here's the thing. I don't feel it's necessary to criticize this song or these guys doing to criticize this. But here's what fucking bothers me about it, okay?
about these assholes.
It's 3:45 p.m. Time for Johnny's rant.
Oh, I wish I had some things.
Yeah. We need to get some stuff like that. It's time for the pain rant train.
I mean, once I'm not in the studio here, and I should say, shout out here to Trevor Spencer, friend of the pod, major friend of the pod, and it's been really nice connecting with him.
We'll do the song there.
Well, we'll record it here, in probably one of the nicest studios I've ever recorded at. And,
okay, so let's wait. I'm on.
Okay, do the round, and then we'll get to recording this.
What
song
really
with
fucking pisses me off about this is not that they've done it. Do whatever you want. We don't have to listen to it. You don't have to listen to it. People can say what they want. They can love it. They can hate it. Whatever. What upsets me is using first of all, having the audacity to claim that these men who have died, who aren't around to tell the tale, to say with authority that you know that they would be into what they're doing here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To say, we know that John, because he liked technology in the studio, would be into auto-tune. Like I can say like that Paul's saying that he would approve of what we've made here and that he would want this to come out and that George would be happy they're doing it and that they're using that guitar part that he recorded and abandoned. I'll tell you why. You can use all those parts. You can use the tape. You can use George's guitar part, but you can't say that. Say, I don't know what John would have thought of this. Say, John was a polarizing figure. He had strong opinions in the recording studio.
And they changed all the time.
Say, I don't know, maybe if Paul was cool, he'd say maybe John would have hated this.
Yeah.
But we're doing it because we think it's cool.
And because we want to get it out of us, our system.
Exactly.
We want to be there with John. Maybe he could say that.
Yeah, be like, George hated it when we did it in the 90s.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, me and Ringo wanted to do this. Have the balls to say that.
Yeah.
And don't go out and say it just so you can link your merch page to the Spotify account and sell a bunch more T-shirts or whatever the hell it is. And,
of the peace sign.
on the... Yeah, exactly. On the back of, you're essentially using John's legacy and opinions that he can express to sell something. And that's where I'm against it, fundamentally.
Okay. It's a hot take. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that there's something... We've talked about kind of living in the shadow of John. It's like the kind of syndrome. It's like the Kurt Cobain thing with Dave Grohl, where it's like you kind of live within the specter of this giant who in certain ways can't be defeated, Sauron kind of figure, you could say, but represents something larger than life, and you're still alive. So you kind of you can if you want, you can stop. But there's an element of it with Paul that like probably is grief too.
Of course it is.
Which
of course.
is playing out in the public sphere is really weird because it kind of comes like this like really malevolent, strange thing, which like maybe he thinks if he sells more T-shirts he'll be bigger than John, or if he's every time it's kind of like it all feels, everything in his career as a fan feels in opposition or in relation to the legacy of John Lennon.
Yeah, I agree. And you make a really good point about that it may not be solely greed, the whole thing. And you're right. A lot of it seems like he's trying to convince himself.
Yeah, I do think it's that.
He's justifying it not to us to sell the stuff only. I mean, I think that's part of it. To himself, he's coming on and saying that because he's so afraid, James, that beyond the grave, that John is still being like, you fucking loser.
Exactly.
You made this dorky ass video and put me in.
That.
He thinks that, so he's telling himself in the documentary, John would have liked this. Yeah. John would have liked this. He's trying to prove it to himself.
He is.
But
because he's still thinking, like up there in rock and roll heaven,
John's laughing at him.
John is laughing at him with the likes of Jimi Hendrix.
All his heroes.
All his heroes are up there, and they're all laughing at him.
It's really sad.
It is sad. George is up there with John.
Yeah, oh my God. George and John up there laughing at the video.
Yeah.
And Paul's like, he's just trying to convince himself that it's cool. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know. I'm doing the thing he should have done. I don't know what John would have thought of the song.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing: he wouldn't have liked that video.
No. Very stylish man.
Yeah, he would not have liked that music video.
Yoko wouldn't have allowed it either, for good reason.
She must have, though, because it's John's likeness in it. She must have allowed it. She did.
There's a lot of money at play.
Yeah.
I mean, how much are aesthetics? Well, it is actually surprising that she okayed it. She's a very stylish woman,
I know. If we have any listeners...
Even Sean. Like, you'd think Sean Lennon, Mr. MoMA New York Sean Lennon would even just get out the way and say, like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. We saw the video with him and Mark Ronson auto-tuning Hold On from Plastic Ono Band.
Yeah.
I mean, we know where he stands, okay?
Yeah.
But
Ronson in the B2, the new incarnation, the Rock and Roll 2.0 version of the Beatles, we penned kind of Ronson as the new Giles Martin. So when when this finally goes into full expression mode, which is like Ed Sheeran concerts with like Post Malone, Legolas from Peter Jackson's movies, and like Dave Grohl playing drums, and they're kind of like avatars of the Beatles are being replaced by them and back and forth. There's several Pauls running around, different eras of Pauls on stage.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson is, curating this live in the Las Vegas Sphere, presumably.
Yeah.
All of this.
That's where it should
The
happen.
Giles Martin character, his dad, the George Martin, Giles Martin character, live and is going to be played by Mark Ronson. He's already got the suits.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They're slowly morphing him.
If anyone listening is like a kind of works for like Industrial Light and Magic, special effects movie company, could you make another video for now and then with a opposite Irishman age John Lennon and George Harrison of them playing the song at the Las Vegas Sphere on stage?
Well, I think that's Scorsese's technology.
Yeah, maybe Marty could do it. Yeah.
I think he has that stuff. Mm-hmm. But, there's a lot of lawsuits there right now. De Niro's pretty busy. I don't know if he's part of it. He's kind of busy in his own world right now.
Just De Niro. Here we go. We're going back to this again. He's playing John Lennon now?
Yeah.
The role of his lifetime.
Yeah, he could do it.
He could do it.
I think.
I think he could with enough makake.
Yeah.
And some hair.
Of that but like he's playing him at the Sphere now.
Yeah.
So you don't need the aging technology. I mean, that's on
just
your phone
makeup
too.
to make him look more like him. That's all I'm saying. And I think actually Leo could do a good George Harrison.
You think Leo? I mean, so now we're just in Marty's universe.
Yeah, Leo and De Niro as John and George.
I guess Nolan kind of is over there. No, because Cillian Murphy could be George, a young George.
Yeah, he's bound to do...
He's bound to do one of them.
You know what? You don't want to know what really chaps my ass?
Tell me.
I went to see that new Scorsese movie the other day, and you know what the 3 trailers were leading up to it? Oh. And it just cracked me up so much. It was Beatles. Like this. No one's has any ideas about making like a new original script or movie, or like the studios won't greenlight it or whatever. First one was Adam Driver as Enzo Ferrari.
Nice.
Like it's just him, like
another
really cheesy
another Ferrari movie.
Yeah, but it's him, like starting up the company or something.
But it's also Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. And then the next one is Joaquin Phoenix is Napoleon.
Nice.
And he's no accent or anything.
No,
he just
is
an
American
Napoleon,
guy,
like charging into battle on a horse, like an American guy, like attacking something. And then guess, the third one, I'm like, what the hell could be next, dude? It like opens up. He's like, I believe in peace, man. I believe in love, man. And it's like, one life, one legend, one love, Bob Marley. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. So they're all sitting around. Like the studio execs are like, okay, we've done Queen.
Yeah,
that did really well. We did Elton John. Okay, how about Beatles? It's like no,
Peter's
we can't do Beatles.
On it.
They're still alive. Yeah. They're still alive doing stuff. It's not time yet. What about the Stones? No, they still think they're the biggest band in the world. They don't want like a biopic yet. Well, who can we do? We need somebody big. Wait a minute, I got it. But guy comes running in with like Bob Marley. It's perfect. He's dead. Everyone knows who he is. Go make it.
Who plays Bob Marley? Do you remember?
He's got loads of kids. They're desperate for cash.
They need cash. There's a lot of them. There's lots of them.
I don't know who the actor is who plays him, but he looks nothing like Bob Marley.
Nice.
I will say
Perfect.
that. Yeah. And of course, it's called One Love.
Of course, it's called One Love. I mean, also that another thing about that is just like the bottom line. Like, who can afford to do anything in this like kind of global recession? Only people like boomers or people who got into the housing market prior to 2009, I guess. So they're the only people who have any disposable income. It's catered for them. They're going to see this shit.
Of course.
They're going to see One Love.
I can't afford a $12 Coca-Cola.
The generation that changed the world.
Yeah, they're the one. Rocket Man.
Taking their sons and daughters to be like, this is what the world used to be like.
Yeah.
It was a good place.
The titles are always just like, it's like, okay, what's the biggest song?
Yeah.
There we go. There's the title.
They're all just coked out.
Rocket Man.
Exact.
One Love. What would be the title of the Rolling Stones movie? What do you think?
I suppose it would be Satisfaction or something.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Start Me Up?
Start Me Up would be... No, because that would be... They'd probably have to do like a trilogy for the Stones. There'd be Brian Jones stuff. So that would be like Paint It Black.
It should be like a TV series, the Stones one.
Yeah, every album.
It's a Sopranos style. Just like 7 seasons. All the way to now.
Yeah, all just
That'd actually be cool.
I'd watch it.
That'd be pretty cool.
See, that's
kind of more Sopranos-y, though.
Yeah.
Like, done like that. Like, sort of like, Michael Imperioli as Andrew Lou Goldham.
I mean, Andrew Lou Goldham's still alive. Like, he could be de-aged.
Anyone can be de-aged, James. Anyone can be de-aged, re-aged, pre-aged.
Yeah.
It can all happen. Tune it up, man.
I would watch anything. I think, honestly, I think Michael Imperioli could write that. Based on his Instagram and his kind of knowledge of music.
Yeah. We need to get him on here, man. Like,
I'd like to know his take on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's really into like authentic stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of more new wave. I mean, I think it seems to start for him with Chilton as well.
Yeah, he loves Big Star.
He's kind of in that.
Well, he said in the famous Neil and George debate.
The Watergate, the Neil George gate.
Yeah, he loves both. But he said, Neil's kind of guttural, instinctual solos are really
Cortez.
what kind of... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to name a few.
Yeah. Powderfinger.
Yeah, sure. That's a good solo, that one. Yeah.
I've not done a podcast where the coffee's kicked in like this for a while. It's really fun.
Morning's good.
Really
early
good.
Morning.
Keyed up. Fired up.
Well, that's when I get, my thing. That's when I get.
Well, you enter between 1 and 2 cups. You enter the Eagles kind of circle of fear.
Yeah, I've said this before, but I'll say it again for any new listeners. What happens to me is I take those first few sips of coffee, and I just feel like I could take on the world. I'm on my phone.
Well, a minute ago you were talking about you said you were gonna produce now and then. You said
I am.
You said mid first cup that you think you're more Beatlesy than Paul McCartney.
I'll produce it. I know exactly what to do to that track, man. And we'll work on this. Next time, let's road map out. We'll start the set. We'll start as though I was producing the record. You and I will start mapping out the session. We'll co-produce.
Charting.
Yeah. Who are we going to get in? Players. You know what I mean?
Okay,
scheduling, meal
it's kind
breaks,
of like an all or nothing Prime documentary style thing.
You're damn right it is.
Whoever's kind of sat around a table with our our big gulps and our like the NFL one, the Cardinals one.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
it's when they're doing the trade, when they're doing the draft.
Yeah,
we're doing the draft, calling people up. Max, you're our first pick here. You're our first pick. But if you're talking to if you're talking to Detroit, we'll take.
I'm gonna put you on hold. I'm gonna need an answer in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Boom, and then you and I are just in the room
stressing.
Like, whoa, dude, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Max, what's your answer? Okay, guys, I'm in.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's how I saw it in my head.
Well, I approach this whole podcast like sports radio,
sports
music.
documentaries.
It's all like that.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, I have this 20-minute period that I'm writing script ideas. I'm producing new Beatles songs. I'm doing everything. I'm in my bed. I'm drinking coffee. I'm like, man, this is insane. I'm like, Alex. I'm shouting at Alex.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're not
gonna
believe. You're not gonna believe this stuff I'm coming up with here. It's the greatest thing anyone's ever done. And as I'm talking, it slowly morphs to intense, acute anxiety.
Yeah.
The coffee, and then I become the circle of fear. Really takes
kind of
hold.
Andy Serkis, like you're kind of Gollum.
All of a sudden, it's true. Like I put the ring on, and the energy's with me, and then all of a sudden, I just start to shrivel up. And then basically, I normalize, have a glass of water, normalize, and then it's just a slow decline till the end of the day.
Until a beer.
Yes, and then sometimes I can get back up there with a couple of beers.
You can't get back up, but you just don't want to remain straight the whole time because it's downhill.
It's a downhill. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you need at some point someone like a helping hand to push you back up to where your bed is at the end of the day, and that's about it.
And I go to sleep and I think, well, maybe tomorrow,
I'll do something different.
Maybe it'll be better. Yeah, maybe I'll actually write that script.
Yeah. Well. I mean, I think we covered a lot of bases here.
Intense stuff. Anyway, I don't know. The song,
I don't know. Now and then, check it out.
Yeah, I don't know. Decide for yourself.
Just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people like it. Rolling Stone called it a masterpiece.
Nice.
Which I thought was interesting. I thought what was cool here that the first guy who bought the album. Okay, one thing we haven't talked about that I need to mention is the album art, the cover art for the single. What is that?
I don't know. It's some kind of like futurism, like 60s futurism. It's probably like it's probably a famous artist.
It looks like PowerPoint or like Microsoft Word or something to me. Why not? How about just like a photo of the Beatles or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I think the cover looks pretty bad. That I will criticize. But the first person to buy the LP...
It's pop art, though, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so.
It looks like the new Panago pizza logo. At HMV Liverpool, the first person to buy the LP today.
Well,
Guess who? Guess who it was?
Liam Gallagher.
No, John Lennon.
What?
Someone came in who had legally changed their name to John Lennon in the cap and glasses. He was the first one.
I wonder what that John Lennon impersonator is thinking about it that we love.
Javi Parisi.
I wonder if he's done a version of it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he loves it.
I tell you what, I thought it was him in the Peter Jackson video for a minute, playing the role of his life.
Well, he's supposed to come on the show. I've been in touch with his manager, but he's on a world tour.
Yeah.
He's on a world tour.
End of the day, mate. I think about this fucking now and then, I think about it. Fucking biblical, mate.
I love Liam's
fucking biblical, yeah. End of the day, no doubt in my mind, John, buzzing in heaven, rock and roll fucking heaven. Fucking biblical. What did he say? He said something like, "It could fucking shit in me fucking handbag and it still had me polos in it, yeah."
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way that anything Beatles related Liam wouldn't like.
No.
But that's cool to me too.
He fucking rules, man. He can do whatever he wants.
That's cool to me too.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone, yeah. Now and Then, the final masterpiece they and we deserve.
Yeah. We don't deserve it.
This is an interesting statement. The next sentence is, it's a tribute to Paul's obsessive devotion that he spent so many years bringing his friend's song into the world. It's a strange statement.
I mean, to me. It's not journalism anymore, Rolling Stone, is it? But we've gone through this. You can buy news. Like, it's probably that's just a press release that Paul wrote.
Obsessive devotion to like somehow trying to impress John beyond the grave is how I would describe it. I thought that was a really good point, James.
Yeah.
It's sad and it's true.
Yeah, I think it's probably that. Yeah.
And a bit of money stuff too. Probably Ringo likes the cash.
You know what they could have done? Ringo probably needs the cash. I was saying they could have done something where all the money went to a cause.
Why not?
You know, would have taken a little bit of the kind of my suspicions away, you know?
Yeah, why not? They have so much money.
Yeah.
God. It's the whole thing. It's why they need to make Napoleon. Because, it's not like they would have made $200 million on Spider-Man 7 and then being like, hey, let's give some of these, other new filmmakers who might write a new cool script. They're like, no, let's put that into Napoleon because that's guaranteed to.
And that's why it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. That's why we get these Spider-Man movies. That's easier to imagine than just making a nice indie song.
Safe. Everyone, it's really safe. Everything.
Okay, well, look, you've got a long day building a house. I'm going to build, a kind of song. So, great talking to you. And
I wish I could go into the studio right now and work on music. It's that kind of day. It's that kind of day, though. It's like when something like this happens, you want to get in there and make something for sure. Yeah, well, I'll try to channel that into pounding on a 2x4.
Okay, buddy. Have a great rest of your day, and everyone take care and enjoy yourself, and we'll speak to you on Sunday.
Okay, bye-bye.